What's up, everybody? Kristian Nylund here, your host of the Sober Identity podcast, where we chat all things between life, hardships, but most importantly, everyone's sober journey. I love talking about this topic. I love getting to know some new people, and today is no different. I am stoked. I've got a rock star individual on the show. I've gotten to know this man the last couple years through my favorite organization, which everybody knows is Front Row Dads. And he's been someone that I've just been drawn to. I've watched him from afar. I just love this guy's energy. I love the positivity, the light that he brings to the room. And I'm sure you'll be able to hear that today once we dig into this pod. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce my second guest on the show, Chris Bartik. Chris, welcome, buddy.
Thanks, dude. Oh, man, drop the mic. I mean, is that the end of the podcast? Because I'm good after that intro. I'm all right.
I mean, we could make it. Yeah, that could be the end. That made it easy. That's a quick listen for the audience.
Great,
we all appreciate that, right?
No, dude, I
yeah.
appreciate you, man. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you kind of having the conversation above all, It's it's a good one. It's it's one that doesn't happen a lot, except in awkward moments with your friends, and they're like, "You're not drinking," So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, it was fun to hear once I found out that you had been sober for substantially longer time than me. I was like, I got to get a hold of Chris. I got to have this chat because I'm always fascinated about how people got to that point, how hard that journey was, why they made that decision, and everything in between. So super grateful that you were cool with joining me on this show. And I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better too, because obviously we've had a few discussions off and on, and, being in some of those retreats and whatnot, it's hard to have a more deeper conversation sometimes unless you're actually broken out into a specific exercise or whatnot. And so I've been like, damn, I want to get some time with Chris. I know he's got so much to offer me on this topic and many other topics for that matter. So super cool to have you here. So just to give everybody a little glimpse about who you are, Chris, can you give us kind of an intro on who you are? Do you have kids? Do you have a family? Kind of what do you got going on? Where do you live? Those types of things.
Yeah, so I am in a little town called Dripping Springs, Texas. It's about an hour outside of Austin. We moved out here just before the pandemic, and we got some land. We got some land out here. We had been in Austin forever, and it was just time. It was time to go. So I have two girls. I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I am married to my beautiful wife. We've been married. This is going to be our 5th year this year, but we've been together 15 years. But yeah, we for some reason 5 years ago before the pandemic, we decided to get married as well. So yeah, that was fun. The way that I always kind of couch like, oh, so what is it? Kind of what is it you do? I always struggle with this, but here's where I am right now. I'm in a transition, I'm embracing life's transitions, and on a relentless pursuit of what truly matters. So this is a very nicely worded way that ChatGPT told me I could say, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So that's where I am, man. That is me. And I do have a few businesses. My wife and I started a business coming out here to Dripping Springs, which is why we have a wellness, eco wellness retreat that we're kind of building out here called Flourish Here. And then I'm co-owner of a software company, as well as a managing partner in an advertising agency, a digital marketing advertising agency here in Austin, Texas as well.
Awesome. I didn't know that. I didn't know you were that busy with a bunch of different avenues that don't really tie into each other. I think that's so cool,
man. I'm trying to simplify it. I'm trying to kind of back into life. I think we've talked about this because I feel like I tell everybody about this, but like I say, I'm in a moment of transition right now. And I say moment, I have been in a moment of transition for the last 10 years, but like that voice, that whisper is getting louder and louder to where I can't ignore it anymore. I can't kind of push it away. So I'm trying to simplify my life. I'm trying to concentrate and focus on the things that bring me joy. One of the questions I always ask, I don't always like the answer, but is this the path of more joy or less joy? And so that applies a lot to my work life. And like I say, in the process of transitioning that to kind of simplify and just, I don't know, man. I don't know what it's going to look like, but yeah, it will look different than it does now, especially from like a work perspective.
Gotcha. What is holding you back from going in that direction that brings you more joy? Does your gut tell you, hey, I know that I want to go this direction, but how does that fit into this whole picture? Because I know from experience, I have definitely lived my life in that regard of, I think I know what I should be doing, but deep down, like, I would love to go do that. But it's always that limiting belief, fear factor, just brick wall scenario. So I'm just curious where you're at in regards to that.
This is such a great, because I never thought about it, but in the context of, kind of where I am, it absolutely ties into kind of the, I guess maybe the more specific conversation we're going to have about sobriety, but, there's definitely a link, which I didn't kind of realize until you were saying that, and kind of putting it in this, in this context. But, where I am right now is really, I don't know where I want to go. I don't know, like I said, like jokingly earlier, where, who I want to be when I grow up, but I do know, it's not where I've been. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know what the path forward is. The way I always visualize this is like, I'm kind of standing on this, chasm, or like where it's foggy and I can't see if the next step is like 100 feet down, 6 inches down. But when I look back behind me, it's like, I don't know what the next step is going to bring and where it goes. But when I look back, I know it's not where I've come from, right? It's not, that's not the answer. That's not the answer for me. So it's like the next best step is forward. And so that's kind of how I visualize it, man. And as far as what's kind of holding me back, it's the cliche of, of the unknown, right? There is a, there's no safety net, man. We've put a lot of our kind of money and time into what we're doing here on, kind of on our land. And so like to completely pull away, like I would love to do, like tomorrow, I would love to just say like, hey, Kristian, by the way, I have zero job and it is only the path of more joy now. Right. Like I would love, that's it, right? That's the path. But then there's like zero income. Right? I mean, it's just like zero at that point. So there is a balance. But man, I will say also, there is very much of a, man, it's the cliche again of surrender, right? There is just very much of a part of me that just like loves that. Like, I just want to see how far down I need to go before I come back up. You know what I mean? It's almost like that challenge, like, oh, okay, yeah. Let's see how bad it gets. Let's see how bad it gets until you kind of figure it out. Like, it's like a little, all right, that's how we're going to do it. So yeah, but limiting belief is very much of around, kind of that unknown and just all the financial, like, oh, I'm the breadwinner and, supporting the family and everything that kind of goes along with that. It feels a little reckless just to kind of flip the light switch from, kind of making a very good living to nothing. So it is overcoming that.
Yeah, I completely understand that. It is so funny. We're so ingrained in that where we're terrified to leave that financial stability, right? And you find so many people that we're all involved with are terrified to actually go after what they're really passionate about and they're really good at and really want to do, all because, well, I'm making that really good paycheck and I've got all these bills and I can't afford my mortgage if I leave and all these things, but they're essentially accepting a level of misery for financial stability. And that is scary as fuck, right? That is so scary that the majority of people are doing that to an extent. And I've found that to be the case on some occasions too, where it's like, what's the true value of money for me? I found out I started making decent money when I first got hired at Delta. Like the second year in, I'm like, holy shit, like I'm making some good money. This is great, right? And you think like, oh, I've arrived and now I got pep in my step. I'm just bouncing through life, not a worry in the world. But I quickly came off of that, very quickly, I might add, to go, well, shit, I've got the nice house, I've got the nice car, I've got the numbers in my bank account and on the statements. And I was like, I still feel fucking miserable.
Yeah, dude.
And it was just like such an eye-opening moment for me, but a terrifying one too. And quite frankly, I didn't know how to fix that at the time. You know, that was many, many years ago. And I didn't really understand of the concept of that. Wait, money's not making me happy. Like, I know that people say it all the time. Money doesn't make you happy. Well, guess what? I 100% agree now, because I've been there and I've seen it and I felt it emotionally. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So that's always something that I try to address now. And I've had to be very intentional on of like, money's not making you happy. What is going to make you happy? Obviously, being financially stable definitely takes the stress off of your life. And that's where we talk about the freedom that money can give you. It doesn't give you happiness. It does give you some freedom and flexibility. So finding that balance is so key. And I wish for everyone to take a look, but I also understanding the stress levels involved, just like you described. I'm not necessarily envious of your position, but I know that it's a challenging one. But I also know you're going to figure it out. So I think that's so cool. Now, out of the 3 companies, businesses right now, which one is giving you the most joy?
Well, I would definitely say, you know, the one that's giving me the most joy is Flourish Here. So that's the eco wellness retreat that we're building. But it's also the one that gets the least amount of attention. Like, I mean, you know, it's such, man, it is just so representative of how upside down, you know, kind of like all of the promises, you know, kind of that we've been made, you know, is you know, kind of an acculturated society since elementary school, in terms of, you know, like, you know, here's the plan, right? Here's how happiness works, right? You work, you make money, and you know, buy things. You know, the more you buy, the better. That's what's gonna make, you know, kind of what's gonna make you happy. And you know, and as you pointed out, rightly so, you know, it's what's odd is I'm having these conversations. You know, I'm having these conversations with my daughters, and dude, it is like, you know, it's one of these things that like you have to learn. There's no amount of anybody telling you, right? You know, of anybody telling you that like, oh yeah, money doesn't buy happiness. Yeah, it's you know, it's like you have to experience it, right? You have to just kind of like go down. There's just no other way. It's just one of those things in life that no matter how many people tell you or how many times you see it in others, you completely have to embody and somatically experience like, yeah, man, there's something else. There's got to be something else. Like, I can't do this another 10 years. I can't do this another 20 years. Like, there's got to be something else. But man, you know, it's interesting because I think about the parallels between this and, you know, kind of, and, you know, and sobriety. And, you know, like my canned response to, you know, well, why, you know, kind of, why don't you drink anymore? You know, why are you sober? Has always been, you know, basically the pain of drinking, outweighed the pain of not drinking. And that's always been kind of like, that was just it. That just summarized it for me in a heartbeat. It wasn't like, you know, there wasn't a singular moment. It was kind of just that rolling thing of just much like my life now, like just the whisper, you know, kind of the voice in the back of the head just got louder and louder and louder until it was just like, yeah, okay, this just doesn't make sense anymore. But it's so, I hadn't put my finger on that, like the parallels between kind of, you know, where I am right now and where I was, you know, back then about, you know, 9 years ago. When I decided to stop drinking. But it's kind of the same thing, just, you know, professionally, you know, in my life, like, you know, the pain of, you know, that life, the pain of just, you know, missing out on things, or I shouldn't say, it sounds very victim-y, making the choices to miss out on things versus, like, again, you know, kind of choosing the path of less joy versus the path of more joy. Like one that always stands out, that is always in the forefront of my mind right now, is like homeschooling my youngest daughter. My oldest is in high school, and she's, and that is a total fit for her. Like she has just such the social aspect in terms of like, theater, art, band, like it's got it. Like she will never go back. But like my youngest, man, I just like, just her light, you know what I mean? Like just her light that she shines and brings, you just see that being, kind of shut down little by little by little by little, in there. And I'm like, I just, that is like priority number one, right? To kind of like free up the time. Like, let's do this, man. Let's learn this together almost. But it's like, again, but that pain I kind of feel is just now, kind of becoming greater than, kind of the pain of not, right? The pain of the status quo, I'm just now starting to kind of realize that, that's where I am, like that part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love how you brought up your daughters in this whole situation, because I have been thinking a lot about that, just from the standpoint of allowing them to be their own individual self, right? And to find their niche and their passion, regardless of, as parents, of course, we want our kids to be uber successful, make sure they have the financial means to build the life that they want. But that takes away from maybe what they're truly passionate about, which could be completely go against any of that stuff, right? Of like, on paper, this person doesn't look that successful and it doesn't make this much money, but my gosh, look at the energy and passion that comes out of these people. It's magic, right? So I've really been trying to do that with my kiddos, and I have two daughters as well, 9 and 7. So I'm just right behind you when it comes to ages. And I love watching them develop their own passions. And I've been trying to tell them, look, I will support you in any direction you want to go, as long as it's something that you are truly passionate about, not something that you feel obligated to do, not something that you think you will make me happy doing. Like, I don't want to see any of that. Like, if it's whatever you love, girls, like, daddy's all in. I think it's so cool that you brought that up and that you're doing that with your kids, because that is missing in a lot of families, to where there's these expectations out there, right? And the kids feel the pressure, and they're like, I don't really want to do this, but my dad or my mom really wanted me to go to the school, and they've already prepped me. Dude. So I feel this obligation, and I don't want to say no, because that's going to create some sort of difficult confrontation with my family. So they're spending so much time spinning in their heads like that, versus spinning in their heads on exciting things that they love, and that's so sad, but it's true for so many scenarios. So I'm hoping that our girls can hopefully keep following that path, regardless of all the societal pressure and everything else, because that is where the magic truly happens for anybody. So I think that's great. But
dude,
I wanted
inspirational on our side, like, to see that, like, because I see that all the time, like, my oldest, like I said, she's in theater, and just fucking for her to kind of get up on stage in front of hundreds of people and sing, right? And, and act and play a part, like, is incredible. Like, I look at that. That's something that she loves. Scares the living shit out of me, but I look at that and I'm like, man, okay, if my daughter, my teenage daughter, can get up and, and do that, like, why can't I, take a step back, kind of from a business, and, face a little bit of fear, in terms of, and face a little fear, kind of financially, and it's the same thing, kind of with the, with the fearless when it comes to, like, whatever it is, like, I recently, like a few years ago, got into hunting. Was never a hunter as a kid, never even held a gun until like 2-3 years ago. But dude, when I was just like getting into it, and I asked her, I was like, hey, are you interested in, kind of, helping me, kind of process deer? It's like, hell yeah. Like, yeah, I don't know anything about it. It sounds kind of gross, but let's do it. Just just had no, like, it was just like, I'll give it a try. I don't, but it's just like, you see that in your kid. It's just so inspirational for you, to kind of like, okay, it's just that learning moment. I mean, again, coming back to cliches, it's such a cliche, that our kids teach us more than, than pretty much anybody else. But it's so true. And especially in kind of those regards where they've still just got that beginner's mind of, everything like, what's the big deal, And and you definitely want to foster that as much as you can, without like, oh, I don't know about that,
Yeah, totally. And you bring up fear, which I think it's so important to bring that word up because that just is such a limiter on everybody's life. And I found, and this ties right into sobrieties beautifully well, the fear piece, I feel, and for me, that was the biggest thing that held me back from staying sober, because all through high school until my senior trip in after high school, I didn't drink a drop of booze, not at all. But then I think and know the fear of continuing that path when the societal pressure of booze, just everywhere you look and your friends are doing it and the hot chicks are doing it. And you're like, oh shit, like I should maybe I need to consider this. Like maybe I should shift. And so the fear piece was huge. And then continuing on as you fast forward through all the drinking and all the nonsense to then get to a point of wanting to step back into being a sober person. That for me I had fear ripping through me during that. I thought that I was fearful I'd never have fun in my life again. I was fearful I didn't know what to do with myself. I was fearful people wouldn't like me anymore. I was fearful that I couldn't meet women. You name it. I mean, the list was endless. And so that I fought so hard. And that was the reason I went back and forth between drinking and not drinking, drinking and not drinking. Let's try it out again. Let's not try it. Let's just keep going back and forth. And it was literally because I was battling the fear in my brain of like, if I do this, this is some scary stuff on the other end. And just like you talked about with some career choices and business adjustments and things, it's the same process with this. And so for me, once I finally stepped into that fear and said, you know what, fuck it. I'm pushing all my chips in on sobriety because guess what, Chris, everybody that I've met that has done this raves about it. They have never regretted the decision. Their life has changed in every positive way, not one negative way. The blueprint has been written. Yet so many of us are so scared to step into this role. So I'm so curious for you, Chris, if you can walk us through maybe if you dealt with that kind of a fear-based viewpoint on sobriety, but talk me through like kind of from the start to the finish of like, how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah. So this is going to be so perfect. So because I just 3 months ago, kind of went on a trip that is going to like kind of just wrap this so nicely, kind of talking about fear. But I mean, it really all started, I mean, I'd probably say like early mid 30s where, like I say, like, it was just like, I would go out and drink and my journey kind of really started in high school. Like I was drinking a lot and, kind of in high school. And then like, in college, there was lots of drinking and drugs. And then when I kind of got out of college, it was just kind of less of the drugs, but just more drinking, right? It was just kind of like, that was just the kind of social lubricant and that, that's just kind of what you did. And, and it was fine when like, I don't know, like, I guess it didn't affect me. It didn't affect me emotionally and didn't affect me, physically. And then later on, I would say, looking back, I didn't notice this at the time, but it was affecting me. I don't know what you would call this, but just like from a decision-making standpoint, lots of bad decisions. But around my early seas, I really started just kind of like feeling it. Like I would, like after a night of drinking, like I would, and I've always been the one, like it's never made sense to me, like to go out and have a beer. Like the statement of let's go out and have a beer, being singular, makes zero sense to me. Like I consciously was like, okay, that means we're getting fucked up, right? Like it's not a beer.
Absolutely.
Like we're getting hammered because there's no point to go out and do this if we're not going to do that. And so I mean, kind of from that baseline, that was it. And man, I just kind of remember, I was living in LA at the time when I just kind of really, really kind of started feeling this, where I would just wake up and like, of course you have the hangover, but there was just this, like, I just almost felt like a chemical imbalance where I just was so inward. Like I just wanted to, like, I just felt self-conscious, like just going to the grocery store. Like, I mean, I just, I don't know. I just didn't want to talk to anyone. And, it just felt really weird. Like before, I would just I just feel like shit for a couple hours and, and then, that was it. But this encroaching, like emotional I always refer to it in my head as like kind of this chemical imbalance. Like there would just be off, like serotonin levels would just be like, cratered. And I just didn't feel like I couldn't, like I would just make excuses as to like, I didn't even want to go to brunch, or I was just like, I just don't want to be around people. I don't, I just didn't like the way I felt. So that was kind of the first, kind of pieces, of it. And that just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And so like the progression was like, I felt it. And then it just kind of progressed into like, okay, I would only go out on weekends. Like I wouldn't go out and drink on the weekdays just because like kind of getting up early for work and having to face people at work and in that it was just like, but I still for a longest time, and of course like special occasions, like, when you're out on vacation and, and stuff like that. But dude, even, it should remind me, like even on vacation, man, I just look back, like I just look back on pictures, like, kind of up into, 20s and 30s, like, I'm going to say 80 to 85% of them were in a bar at somebody's house drinking or someplace drinking. Like there was just alcohol in all of it. And like missing out so much on, on stuff just because I was so hungover, the next day or even that night we were supposed to do something, but it's just like, oh no, but there's no alcohol there. Like, let's stay here and do this thing and just totally blow that other thing off. Right. Because I don't know if we're going to be able to get drinks there. And so that, I mean, that kind of just progressed. It progressed and progressed. And like I say, it wasn't necessarily it was just, it was kind of rolling thunder with that until like I had moved back to Austin and had my first, we had my first kid. And I was already, obviously with a kid, it's like, that's really hard, right? Like just going out and then coming back to be a dad, after going, that was a big kind of change. And that was a big, kind of turning point, but I still kind of went out. And then, man, one day I just came back. I remember I was walking home. It was here in Austin. I was walking back home and it was not like, I couldn't get a cab or anything like that. And it was, I don't know, it's probably like 20, 30-minute walk. And I'm just like kind of going back and I'm like, this sucks. Like, I was like, this is just this. I just don't know like why I did this tonight. And, I was talking, with, my wife, then girlfriend at the time. And, I kind of just said like, I don't know why I do. I'm just not going to drink anymore. And I had kind of it was like just that point, it kind of just became and what that means is ever. Like, I can't not do the thing where, oh yeah, I'm only going to have one beer when I go out. Cause I knew it's just not going to happen that way. Right. I'm going to have the one beer and then it's 2 and then it's 20. Right. That's just the thing. And so just kind of like, once I kind of gave it a voice and just kind of said it out loud, like, and just admitted it to myself of like, this is what it's going to have to look like. And just like you said, like, I mean, after, like, it was kind of like a weight just kind of lifted off. And, and then kind of slowly, I started telling my, my closer friends and, and stuff like that. When we go out, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of just done feeling like shit. Is the way that I had, kind of phrased it. I just don't want to feel like shit anymore. But then to kind of wrap it, so that was about 9 years ago. Okay. That I kind of did that. So it was right around, like, I think it was just after my 40th birthday. And so, but just to kind of tie the bow on that, I just a few months ago went to visit a really good friend of mine who I hadn't seen like in person in a long time. He lives in Tennessee. We were kind of like ride or die buddies in LA, just like our whole relationship revolved around, kind of booze and, kind of all this stuff. And, we had kind of been texting. He's one of those guys where like, no matter how much time goes by, like as soon as we're together, it's just like, boom, it's just like nothing, kind of like nothing ever, kind of never skipped a beat. And so I was like, dude, it's been way too long. I'm going to come up and I want to come and stay the weekend and let's connect. And dude, I was so fucking afraid of like going there. And I kind of said, and he sent me the text. He's like, hey, kind of, where are you on the fun scale? You know what I mean? And like, he's, him and, he's always been one of those guys like that. And I don't want to say the word envy, but I've always been kind of envious of that does go out and have a drink. Like it is like, I'm going to have a glass of wine with dinner and that's it. Like, oh, I'm good. But he can do like, if he's just going to say like, yeah, I'm just going to have a little bit of I'm going to have a little bit of a drink and, and that's it. I can stop and it's good. But, but I was kind of telling him, before kind of heading up there, it's like, yeah, I don't drink anymore. But, I mean, not to say that you guys can, like, I want to do all the same, because I was telling him, man, like, I want to go out, I'm going to go out dancing. Like, him and his husband are like the kings of kind of Nashville, and like kind of knew all the cool spots. And so I was like, dude, I want to go out dancing and I want to do all the stuff that we used to do. I'm just not going to drink. And he's like, okay, cool. I mean, literally just like, awesome. Like, can't wait to see you, blah, blah, blah. But still, dude, like I get there and I'm just so nervous. Like, dude, are we gonna have anything to talk about? Like, what are we going to do? And Kristian, like, I can't tell you this. I just did my 2024 review in my journal, and that weekend was probably the highlight of my year last year. Like, we got so close. Like, I mean, we were so connected, like just going for walks, like hour-long walks around the neighborhood, just talking about everything, things that we didn't even know about each other. It was incredible. It was so incredible. Like, and it, like after, I mean, say probably about the first 2 hours, because like, obviously he asked me like straight up when he picked me up at the airport, what the fuck, what's going on? And like after that, it was just like, dude, I mean, we were both amazed at like kind of the level of a relationship, kind of before and after, where we hadn't seen each other in like, I don't know, like like probably since my 40th birthday, maybe. And it was incredible, dude. Like, so just like overcoming, kind of that fear and just kind of like putting it, because I was having the thoughts of like rationalizing, like, oh, it's really a busy time. Maybe we should reschedule. It's a lot of, but it was all about this nervousness of seeing each other in totally different context of like, this is me. Like, are you gonna like me? Like, or do you like the, kind of the fucking crazy wild man, LA drinking buddy who just fucking lights shit on fire wherever we go? You know what I mean? Like, that's the, kind of, that's the version, kind of that I had, in my mind. Like, that's the guy he likes. He doesn't like this guy. And dude, it was just so fucking awesome to kind of come out. He's like, I like this guy better. Like, I love this man, but I love this man too. And dude, it was just I'm getting chills just kind of thinking about it, because it was just so, it was just so awesome. It was just so awesome.
Chris, I love every part of this story, man. There's so much here, and this the way you just finished this is perfect. And I want people who are listening to hear that enthusiasm, that willingness to step into something that's so fearful. And to see how Chris described that interaction with someone who was his drinking buddy for years. And this was the most memorable time he'd ever have with this individual. Isn't that astounding? That to
amazing.
Me, I got chills just listening to you, because I've had very similar experiences, right? To include just how I enjoy my life now. It's like the many years that we've spent numbing all that shit out, Chris, is astounding, right? And I want to give you massive props. I'm so proud of you. 9 years. Kudos, man. That is impressive. And it's impressive the way that you did it. That to me, if you just kind of went, you know what? I'm tired of feeling like shit.
Yeah.
And you just committed, right? So you didn't have any back and forth. That was your moment of, I'm done.
It was
Man, that takes massive balls. And I give you massive credit for that, because I know how hard that is to make that choice. And it sounds like you and I had very similar type of experience with alcohol. I guarantee if you and I went to happy hour tomorrow, Chris, and let it rip, we would be just as good of buds as we are now, because it's the same mentality, right? It's I'm not having just one. It is a waste of my time. And I said this so many times to people. I said, if I'm having one, I'm having 20. If I start, I'm going until I pass out. It was consistently that way. And I had no off switch typically, because I'm a pretty social guy, and I love to drink for many reasons, but this ties in beautifully to your experience with your drinking buddy. I love to drink with people because then I got to learn about the real them. That, honest to God, it created a cool connection that I'm now putting together now that I'm sober. Is I actually really enjoyed drinking from that aspect. I got to learn about people's fears. They got vulnerable with me. They got teary-eyed with me. And I felt connected. But then I was tying into, oh, crap, like, I guess I got to drink with these people to get them to loosen up.
Dude.
And that is so sad, because deep down, everybody has this ability. They can be themselves, right? You talk about like your daughter being up on stage and the rest of people are fearful. We can all be that, but we hold ourselves back. And then we have this easily attainable drug, I'm going to call it, to then give us the power to be ourselves. And that's what I equated to booze. Was it tied in to Kristian can't be himself, but he can be if he does this drug. And that was a scary thing that happened for me, because the night that I had my first drink in Mazatlan, Mexico, I look fondly back on that moment, because I finally stepped into who I am today. It was always there, but all the inhibitions disappear, right? I literally tried to talk to anyone and everyone at that bar. It was hilarious. I wanted to know where they're from. How you doing? Oh, you guys having a good time? I was that dude. And so then I thought I needed it for years and years and years to be me. And that's when it started to get pretty vicious, that cycle, because I would start to build anxiety and anxious energy in myself. If I'm with you, I've never met you, Chris, and we're going out to the bar or whatnot, I'm like, I just need to get my first drink, and then I'll be good. Yeah. I'll simmer down, and I'm all fresh, and it always happened. But then the aftermath is you're pumping a depressant. You're feeling good for X amount of time, and then you go back to sleep. Your sleep is crushed. You wake up like you described, anxious, not myself, don't want to be social, even though you're totally social. You would love to go to brunch. You would love to do all these things. But now up here, you have fucked yourself with all that booze. And so the other piece that I love that you slipped in there was like, and I hear people make this comment all the time, is like, yeah, I go out drinking and then, I feel like shit for a little bit and then I get better. They always slide that in of like, I am willing to accept feeling like ass to go have this X amount of fun. And so to me, that's just such a way of accepting mediocrity with ourselves. Like, I'm willing to punish myself by drinking and feeling like not myself the next morning, yet I don't want to go improve my physical abilities. I don't want to, push past my fears. I don't want to try new things. We're so willing to accept mediocrity, and alcohol is the biggest one I see, because it's fucking ruining people. It's ruining lives. It's doing so much of that, all because we're too fucking scared to just be ourselves. Like, you can have fun without booze. You can be yourself. In fact, you can have amazing times like you just proved with what you just discussed. That is exactly the type of things that I've been seeing with my relationships too. The depth, that is fun. That is the kind of drug I love. Yeah. I love learning something new about someone else, feeling the moment, trying something new, going out and having the walks in the sunshine with a friend. That feels great. Totally. And you want more and more. And guess what, y'all? You'll always feel like you're never going to feel like shit. You can get more as much as you want. There's no negative side effect to living like this. And so I love talking about this subject. As you can tell, sobriety is changing so many lives, to include yours, mine, a bunch of other people that we know. And I just love hearing your story, man. This makes me so happy. I'm already so fulfilled today, having had this conversation with you. Like, I'll be content the rest of my day. Just be like, yeah, I feel fulfilled today. Like, I don't need to do anything else. So I so appreciate you sharing that. But I wanted to ask if there was ever a time, not that like you were drinking just to have fun, but did you ever slide into the realm of, now I'm drinking to make me feel better about my life, or now I'm more emotionally charged to drink? Or was it always kind of a loosey-goosey, like, oh, I drink and then I feel like shit, and
Yeah,
you got tired of that ping pong? Like,
I did.
describe that
Yeah,
for me.
it was totally kind of the, kind of the ping pong. And I'd say more of it was, like I say, this like this, I don't know, this chemical imbalance thing that just kind of hit me. I mean, that was really like, because like, I don't know, like I felt like the physical side, like kind of feeling like shit, like I kind of felt like I could get around that. Like I kind of felt like, oh, like, especially when I was living in LA, like one of my favorite things to do is like, okay, dude, I can ride my bike. I was 5 minutes from the beach. I'm like, I can ride my bike to the beach and I can just sit at the beach in kind of like isolation, right? Just like, okay, no one's going to come talk to me at the beach. I can just kind of put my hat on, my sunglasses, and lay down, right? Like I felt like I could kind of get over kind of the physical, of it, where I just like, I don't know, I go out in the sun, get, kind of get in the water, but it was like, it was just this emotional thing that just kind of like, I just couldn't fucking shake it. There was nothing that I could do except go to a bar and get something else to drink. That was the only thing. Like, that was it. And I was just like, God. And even then, I just realized that, well, this is such a fucking vicious cycle. Like, okay, so now tomorrow, is this like forever now? Is this like, that's my plan, right? It's going to be fucking forever until like cirrhosis. Like that's the
Pretty
plan.
much.
Yeah. And so I was just like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. And so like, just after, kind of just after that, like, I was just like, yeah, it's like I say, at about that point, that's when I kind of just started like kind of just weaning a little bit. Like, okay, so it's like, I just kind of said, man, I had never realized this before, but kind of in both scenarios, like I don't know if it was like accountability or if it was just like, but the idea of giving that conviction voice, in terms of like, because it was very intentional to say, like the night with my wife, like, I'm not drinking any, like saying it out loud to somebody, like, I'm not drinking more. I just don't like that. And it's like, when I say like not drinking anymore, I mean, I'm just not having alcohol anymore. Like not one, not 10, not any. And just kind of saying that, like, because like up until that point, it's just all been kind of I just running it in my head, like, oh, yeah, I really don't want to do that. But like you say, I feel like I've got to, because people are expecting me to be the kind of wild and crazy guy that they're used to, and they're not going to like me if I'm just regular. It was kind of the same thing, like with this weaning process of like, going from, maybe like 4 or 5 nights a week drinking to just 2, just Saturday and Sunday. Now, of course, if it's a long weekend, I mean, it was, maybe it's 3. But like I said that out loud, like I was just like, I told people like, I'm just not going to, like, it's just hard to get up for work and shit like that. Like, I'm just not going to do that. Like the weekends are my time. Like that's the way I put it. Weekends are my time. I will, I'll go out and, and drink, and we'll kind of, we'll do all the stuff. But I didn't kind of put it together until just, kind of processing this verbally, that I think that did have a lot of impact, was just, again, just giving it voice, like saying it out loud, and not just kind of like letting it kind of sit in your head, but just like, no, here's what's happening. Again, I don't know if that's an accountability thing, or if it's just like, now it's in the universe, and, kind of, you've spoken it. So like, hey, this is now what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I find that certainly since I've been doing more journaling and whatnot the last couple of years, like if it's coming out of my mouth or on paper, I need to listen to it. And even if it's kind of shocking, I'm like, do I really want to do that? Like, it's amazing. Like if you just spend that time and just start writing, and then say it and tell some people, yeah, there's an accountability standpoint too, that's helpful to like kind of give you the boot over the edge. You know what I mean? Get past your fear and like step into how you are genuinely feeling, instead of rotating in that vicious cycle over and over. So Yeah, I find tremendous value in that, but I just think it's so neat that that's how you were able to pull it off. Now, what was your wife's reaction to that, and how has that dynamic shifted for your family? Not to just include your wife, but also through your kids. Like, kind of give me a glimpse into sobriety and its effects on your family.
Yeah, so from the kids' standpoint, like they really didn't. I think because I stopped drinking when my oldest was about 4 or 5. So she didn't. There isn't really any kind of thing there. But
Which is
you know,
amazing. That's so
yeah, yeah.
cool, right?
It well,
For your kids are like, what? My dad, there's no way he drank, right?
yeah.
That's so
Yeah,
cool. Anyways,
it's kind of funny, like the stories though, like because I'm very like open, kind of when asking about like bad decisions, because I don't know, like they went through this phase. I don't know about yours, but mine went through a phase. Like tell us all the things that you regret, like all the stupid decisions you've made, and every single fucking one of them, kind of involved alcohol or drugs in some way. So, but yeah, so for my kids, they never really saw that side of me, but for my wife, it was that, I mean, she was always, she was never a big drinker, like it wasn't, I mean, of course, like I should say, not like I was. Like she was, again, one of those people that was just like, hey, we're going to go out to dinner. I'm going to have a glass of wine with dinner, and that's it. That was the thing. And so kind of like when I was just like, I'm kind of done. I think she probably just kind of like, I kept, I mean, maybe like we go out to dinner, maybe like for the next year. I think maybe she kind of had a glass of wine for, I don't know, maybe she had like 10 glasses of wine. Like maybe when she went out with her friends, she had a glass of wine. Maybe a couple times we were at dinner. And then I kind of just felt like she was just like, it just wasn't a thing. She's like, maybe she was only drinking because I was drinking. Like, that's kind of what it felt like. That she was like, oh, okay, well, Chris is gonna, I'll have, I guess I'll have one just to kind of, but it was just a non-event. It was a non-event for her. It was just like, yeah, all right. Well, I don't feel the need to anymore. So, yeah. I mean, again, like I don't know that we've ever kind of explicitly, like, kind of, I've asked her, about like, I mean, because she doesn't even drink when she goes out with her, with friends. Normally that's because, well, now, especially in the last 5-6 years, like we live an hour outside of Austin. So for us to get, I mean, it's an hour drive. So she's like, I've got to drive. So I'm not going to, I wouldn't drink anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like, it just kind of fell away. I mean, just as, kind of as I stopped. But again, like she had a totally different relationship with it than I did.
yeah, it's really nice. I think, do you think that would have been tougher for you to quit if she was like the same party animal like you were? And it's like, what? Now my drinking buddy's gone. Like, you can't do this to me type of scenario. Do you think that would have been
Man, I can't even imagine. Like, I'd never thought about it until, I mean, I saw some of the threads, kind of in the Telegram group, about, kind of some of the people's relationship. I had never thought about it until then. Like, I totally got lucky in that regard. Like, this is not something that ever really entered into my, because the one or two kind of glasses of wine, whatever, like, I don't care. You wanted to have, that's fine. But like the way that I got, if my partner was doing that and I wasn't, I'd be like, okay, like this is after a while, that would totally be an inflection point for me. Like I totally respect your need, your want, whatever it is to do that, but that's just not where I am. Like, it's not working for me. Like, I'm babysitting all the time. Like, like we're two people in this, kind of, we're two parents. And, I feel like when you go out, it's like, I'm a single parent. And if that was the status quo, that would definitely be a much tougher row, for both of us. Like, especially if I was totally committed to like, I'm not going to put myself through that. And, she hadn't gotten there yet. Yeah. I dodged a bullet there. Totally.
Yeah, that's so cool, because I know that creates, it's amazing how much strife that creates in relationships with alcohol. That subject, like, and it's wild to think about, but it also makes sense, right? It comes from almost like a core value standpoint. Like some people, they like that part of their life. Like they love wineries, they love breweries, they love having a nice tequila in Mexico. Like they genuinely enjoy that. And and have a way to keep it manageable. Right. But it's tough when one person is completely abstinent on it and the other person's like, yeah, no, you're not stopping me, pal.
Yeah.
Like I'm still going to
Yeah.
be a little liquored up every now and then. And yeah, it creates a tough dynamic. So I'm just curious how that looked for you, but sound like you had a perfect situation. You're telling someone who hardly drinks anyways, they're like, sweet.
Yeah.
I don't really care about that. So good for you. Like I fully support you, honey. And you moved right on. So that's so cool. Nice segue into that lifestyle. Did you, in the last 9 years, have you come across any triggering scenarios where you felt it like, ooh, like I haven't felt like that in a while. It's where I'm like excited to maybe have a drink right now. Or was it kind of like yeah, no, I put in my, 20, 30 year career. I'm retired now. Like, peace out, everybody.
Yeah, I'd say it's not triggering. What I experience is nostalgia. You know what I mean? Like I experience kind of the nostalgia of like, I mean, just like, so I kind of towards the end of my drinking career, I much preferred day drinking, right?
Me too.
Like
Me
ending
too.
at about like 8, 9 o'clock at night. And, so, but every now and then, like we'll go, so in Dripping Springs here, it's just like, it's crazy. It is wineries, breweries, and distilleries. Like if you're going to go to a restaurant, it's in one of those 3 buildings, a winery, a distillery, or a brewery. And every now and then we're just out, we're going to grab something to eat at a winery. And it's just this gorgeous day, it's like whatever, 75 degrees outside, the sun's out, you got your shoes off, your feet are in the grass. And you're like, you just kind of think, I kind of just think of like, oh man, like what's missing right now is a beer in my hands. You know what I mean? It's just like, there's just a little bit of nostalgia that kind of that comes with that. And I would say the second is, sometimes there was, and I'm sure we've all experienced this. There's kind of that arc, right, of drinking where it's just like you say, like you kind of lubricated, you're feeling good, you're just talking to everyone, and there's like kind of possibility just opens up just because you're so open, and then quickly it just fucking shuts down and you start making bad decisions and like, what did you fucking say? You know what I mean? Like, it kind of like goes, or you just get too loud and and whatever. But there is that, like every now and then, like kind of just that, when you're kind of when you're out someplace and there's just that like there's just kind of that feeling of like, like just that openness and, kind of whatever is possible that, kind of drinking did accelerate. And the last one, and this is so specific, but it's just so funny, is fucking bowling, dude. Like, okay, dude, I like after one pitcher, like I was unstoppable. Like there was that one pitcher, which was good for about like a game, right? Dude, I was like, boom, strike, 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 strike. Like, so my second game was always just fucking on point. Like I'm, 150 to 200, like, bowling. And then after that, it's all like, downhill from there. But dude, like that second game of bowling after that first pitcher was awesome. Like every now and then I'm like, fuck, like, especially I'm just like sucking ass, it's just like, all right, man, a pitcher of beer and I'll be good. There's like I say, but it's all around nostalgia, but it's never been kind of like, it's nice to remember that, but yeah, we're not going to actually act on it. Yeah. It's just more of like a nice memory.
Yeah. That's so cool. It brings up, I just got back from Fernie, British Columbia. They've got an amazing skiing resort up there. So I skied with Mike Brisick, who you know. Yeah. So he lived in Fernie for a long time. He invited me up with a couple of his buddies. But anyways, of course, there was, we'd go to the lodge, in between runs or at the end of the day. That was the first time in a long time where it hit me. And it was more nostalgic, like you described. It wasn't like I was having a shitty time and needed a hit of booze to kick me back into gear. It was just like, oh yeah, I'm looking around, pitchers of beer are flowing. It's just cozy, warm inside. You got this beautiful scenery out the window. And I was like, oh yeah, it's really hit me. And I've really weaned myself off of even NA beers, to be honest with you. But that was a moment where I said, you know what? I'm going to see if they got an NA beer just so I can, experience this like the boys. And I did. They got Corona makes a yummy, it's called, I think, Sunburst. So I had one of those with the lime in it, cheers and the boys. And that for me did it. I mean, it was just, okay, now I feel it. I'm drinking the beer. I'm mingling with the guys. And so that was really nice and a cool option. But the next time around, we did the same thing. And I sat there and I was, just getting louder and louder. People were getting drunk. And I'm like, when do the lifts close? One of the guys goes, 4:00. And I look at my time and it's 3:30. So I'm just like, fuck it. I want to go get some more skiing. And I wanted to get up. It was a beautiful day. The lighting was going to be great. So I just booked it. I tried to get as high up as possible. And I got off on the lift, just soaked it up, man. Yeah, I was like, this. And I just, I just had a lot of just gratitude of like, man, that was the old me hanging out in the lodge, getting blasted, like not even noticing this pure beauty around me. And so I just got up on that mountain and just had some time to myself. And it was so nice. And I laughed. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy now?
Yeah,
right?
Dude.
Like, but it was so neat to just honor that moment. And just know that I could still hang out in that crowd. But there's times where I'm like, that's not who I want to be. That's not the crowd I want to be hanging with. So I think that's great, man. I'm always curious on how different people handle it now that they've been in the sober world, because it can get challenging. If it's shoved in your face and you're in scenarios, it could be rough.
But it's like, and I notice, and it's funny, like whenever we go out to eat around here, it's usually at a winery, distillery, or brewery. I've noticed, and I know some of the owners and stuff like that. And some of them have, but I love it. Like, it's so much more common now to, kind of to be able to whip up like some mocktails or, kind of have the NA beer. But my favorite is a lot of people, or a lot of places around here at least, actually brew their own kombucha. So, like at the wineries and breweries and stuff like that, like they'll just brew their own kombucha. And it's just fucking great. I'm like, I love this, because it's like, that's one of the cool things about going to a winery. You're like, this is handcrafted, right? Like it's like, that's an experience of like, kind of tasting somebody's craft, and being able to do that non-alcoholic with the kombucha is pretty awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I love that, because it's like, I still kind of get to like, oh man, like, yeah, this is really different. Like, I wouldn't think putting like whatever, flour or, kind of, because one of the places around here does a lot of wild crafting stuff where they kind of harvest what's on the property, whether it's yaupon or kind of anything else on property. And it's like, they're kind of just making this craft, kombucha, which is awesome. Like, I always loved going there, because it was like, I got kind of excited. Like, what are they going to have on tap? What are they going to have for the kombucha? Great. But it is such an important component. It is such an important component to be able to, kind of to be able to be included. Whether it's like, with a sparkling water or, kind of, or a NA beer or a mocktail or kombucha or something like that. I mean, there is something social about it. Like, you don't want to, exclusionary, but, so yeah, it does just make the whole thing easier, because you're participating in that ritual, kind of without the side effects.
Exactly. That's my favorite part now. And it's so funny, the placebo effect. Like, when I first started going through this and I drink NA beers, like the first couple times, I legit, like, my brain went, sweet, we're getting drunk now. Like, I felt it. I was half through a beer and I was like getting into that vibe, and I was like, whoa, what's happening here? Am I drinking the wrong thing?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Dude.
So it's so neat though. A lot of, like, I was a huge beer guy, brewery guy. I'd always go to new cities. Like, where's the good brewery?
Yeah.
Now I'm seeing I can go to them. Like, even in Fernie Brewing Company, they had NA beer, like a Pilsner and a hazy IPA right there posted up. So I'm like, this is so cool. Like, I could walk up here and order up a beer like everybody else. And it is so cool to see that taking off.
Yeah.
And making it more mainstream, to where I'm hearing more and more people talk about, like, oh yeah, every once in a while I have an NA beer and it's this one. It's really good. And you're seeing some other cool breweries pop up left and right strictly for NA drinks. And I'm like, this is the neatest thing.
Yeah, dude.
So cool to see. But I want to wrap things up here, buddy. Yeah. I know you're a busy man with things to do, but for those people who are listening, who are sober curious, what words of wisdom do you have for them to maybe take the plunge into sobriety?
Well, I didn't know this until right now, but like the ones that worked for me were, I mean, consider two things. The first is the pain of drinking outweighing the pain of not drinking? That's an easy litmus test for me. Like you say, that just made a lot of sense. And then the second is like, and again, this is the part that I was saying I didn't recognize until now, is like, if you are going to make a, if you do want to try it and you are going to make, kind of that commitment, say it out loud. Say it out loud to yourself, say it out loud to somebody else. Give it a voice. Let it ring, man. Those would be my two.
I love it. No, I think that's perfect. And then last thing, pitch your retreat. I'm curious about what you're putting together with the retreat that you guys are doing. Just so if someone's interested in doing something along those lines, they know where to find some info.
We are in the midst of building, kind of what we're calling an eco wellness retreat, and it's kind of twofold. So my wife is a building biologist. She is big in the built environment and building healthy homes. And so we are in the middle of building our first, we're calling kind of proof of concept. We haven't finished it yet, but we're in process of building our first cottage. And so this is an all natural building built with hempcrete, which is basically just hemp, lime, and water. And the whole intent is to get rid of the chemicals in the building process, the waste in the building process, and the toxicity in the building process. So we are building everything naturally, earthen floors, so you can connect to the earth and ground. No petrochemicals used, no VOCs, clean water. We're using rainwater for the we're using rainwater for water, and kind of healthy air filtration and stuff like that. So it is really we're kind of experimenting with, combining a little bit of, kind of ancestral living with modern convenience. And so that's one side. And obviously the second side is the part that I'm more excited about. It's the gathering place, right? It's kind of being able to bring people together for whatever it is, drum circles, qigong, stargazing, just getting, I live in Austin, or I'm just outside of Austin. There's a lot of front row dads and, kind of people that just kind of want to, like, hey, let's come and hang out. Let's just gather here and experience each other, and just kind of having a place to do that, whether it's around a fire. We just put in a sauna and a cold plunge out here, dude. So next time you're in town, man,
I'm coming over. You're speaking my language.
Come over. We'll do a little bit. We just got the sauna. We just got the cold plunge out, and yeah, man, I'd love to have you out. But it's called Flourish Here. So flourishhere.com. Again, we're still in kind of the construction phase, but hoping to kind of get it open and and just kind of start the process as soon as possible.
That's so cool, Chris. That's exciting. Yeah, I'm excited to. I want to come visit you for real. I have I have occasional Austin layovers that are fairly lengthy, so yeah, we got to get together and come check out what you're doing. But
dude.
I so appreciate you joining me, man. This conversation's been so cool. Get a glimpse into who you are. I'm not surprised by any of this. Like, you're just so fun to chat with, and I'm looking forward to building upon our relationship, obviously through Front Row Dads and all the cool shit we're doing there. So
yeah, man.
Appreciate what you're doing, man. So stoked on your sobriety journey, and thanks for sharing your story, buddy. Appreciate it.
You're a good man. I appreciate you. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, we'll see you, bud.